Hello everybody, Captain Sidaris here. Like many of you, I sunk way too many hours in the Battlefront games, but I always wanted one thing in those games, and that's massive battles. Like we have in Arma, in Project Reality, but yeah, in Battlefront the maps were always too small. It's always cramped. Luckily, since 2021, a dedicated fan project changed that. Galactic Contention, a mod for Squad, delivers epic 100 player battles across a huge map. I just witnessed this myself for not the first time, but I only played it a couple of times. And yeah, for that reason, I always invite a veteran player and this time also a fellow YouTuber. Hello there, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Well, it was an intense training session with you now, so I'm feeling a little bit tired, but still, like I said, it was a lot of fun.
That was a good game on Felucia.
Yeah, that map especially is, I guess, harder because there is so much vegetation.
Yeah. The foliage is pretty harsh. It's hard to see through, hard to travel through.
But yeah, like I said, amazing. But before we go more into the topic of this amazing mod, I would like to know a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you enjoy in real life? And yeah, how did you get into Star Wars?
Yeah, so I'm Bull One. My real name is Cody. I don't think I've ever talked about that anywhere really on the channel, but it's not really a huge secret. I'm a 26-year-old bartender, which is always funny to tell people. But yeah, so I've been into Star Wars for a really long time. I want to say like 5 or 6 years old is when I really started to obsess over Star Wars. I didn't see the prequels in theaters because I was just barely too young. I wasn't taken when I was a kid, but I do remember seeing the animated Clone Wars movie in theaters, and so that was probably my first Star Wars experience was the animated Clone Wars movie, for what it's worth. But yeah, I grew up loving the prequel era, Clone Wars, watched the show so many times, had the Lego, all the stuff growing up. It was an obsession of mine. So I played a lot of the original Star Wars, Battlefront 1 and 2 on the PlayStation 2. Obsessed over that. Would just constantly be running around Geonosis, and yeah. So once I found this mod, it was like crack.
Interesting. I guess you're the first guy I ever have met, which was basically introduced by the Clone Wars TV show in the cinema.
Yeah, I wouldn't say introduced either, though. Like I had been watching the movies at home. It's just that was my first theater experience, was the Clone Wars. So that was a specific moment. Yeah. I wasn't introduced, and like I'd seen the original trilogy and the prequels plenty of times, but not in theaters. So that was why it was kind of a special thing for me. And I did obsess over the Clone Wars TV show and everything too, but I had seen the prequels and the OT quite a bit too as a kid growing up.
I mentioned this before. I had some problems getting into Clone Wars because the animation style wasn't really the thing I enjoyed in my entertainment. But after watching 2 or 3 seasons, I really got hooked.
Oh yeah, that's totally understandable, because the movie especially, and then a couple episodes here and there of the first season and even the second season, the animation was rough. But as you know, it gets better, and just, I don't know, for it being a kid's show, it had some cool moments that I'm surprised got aired on Cartoon Network back in the day.
To be honest, I wouldn't count it as a kid's show. It's too hard in some parts.
Right. I'm in the same boat. It feels like a show that they called a kid's show to get it out to as many people as possible, but there was a lot of adult themes in that show. A lot of moments that I'm just surprised that I was able to see on Cartoon Network, but I'm thankful they did it because it was good media. It was good Star Wars content.
It definitely was. And it was for me strange to have this, very serious show compared to Rebels. I watched first Rebels. There I met basically Ahsoka and I thought, who is she? I never heard about her. After Rebels ended, I had to watch Clone Wars and I was a little bit, perplexed. How serious the show was, how different the tone was.
Yeah, because Rebels is a lot different.
This is definitely a show more for kids, but yeah.
Yeah, Rebels wasn't bad though. I enjoyed Rebels. but it's definitely different tone than Clone Wars was.
Definitely a different flavor. But I would say let's go for the main question of the day. What is Star Wars Galactic Contention?
So Galactic Contention is a 40-something gigabyte mod for the game Squad. And for anybody that doesn't know Squad is a PC-only milsim, meaning military simulator. It's kind of a more harsher FPS while also trying to stay somewhat accessible. It has quite a bit of a learning curve, but isn't something like, per se, Escape from Tarkov, which is an extraction shooter, but has a huge learning curve with a lot of different aspects to it. So it's accessible, but it's still hardcore for the most part. And Galactic Contention turns that hardcore military simulation into a hardcore Star Wars, Clone Wars, which is both immersive and cinematic. But without knowing the basics of Squad, it's kind of hard to get into. But nonetheless, it's an experience that I feel like a lot of people dream of when they watch the shows or the movies as kids and want something that is like Battlefront, but with more freedom and more communication and teamwork, and just feels very grounded in reality for what it's worth.
Also, like I mentioned during our gameplay session, I love the teamwork in such games. I love how there's also a RTS component where a commander is basically giving you orders. It's something very unique, and it was completely missing in the Star Wars franchise.
For sure.
You had this in Battlefield, but not in Star Wars Battlefront. So nice to have this finally here.
So you didn't really quite experience it because I was the squad leader of that game that we played. But I had in my ears, I had every other squad leader talking, I had the commander talking, and then I heard you guys in my squad, and then I also heard the local VoIP. So I was listening to 3 different channels of audio, which sometimes is a little too much for me, trying to process all information and and coordinate. But it's definitely something of an experience to be able to listen to armor units talking to each other, communicating with the commander giving them orders, commander asking for tactical requests to do bombing runs and stuff like that. It's definitely a different experience than something like Star Wars Battlefront 2, where you hop in, try to rack up a bunch of points so you can play a hero character, and then you run around as a hero character and try to get as many kills as you can before you get killed. It's definitely a much different experience while also being for the fans, if that makes sense. It's very, like I said, grounded compared to something like Battlefront.
And how did you get into it? I guess it's not that known outside of the squad community.
Yeah, so it must have showed up in my recommended on YouTube or something. The original trailer that Gobe did back in 2021. I want to say it was like late 2021. Late 2020 that he uploaded the trailer, and I found it sometime early 2021. And when I saw, I already had Squad. I'd probably have it downloaded at the time. But when I, 50v50 Squad conversion mod, I'm like, yeah, that sounds something like I'd want to check it out. It sounds pretty cool. And the trailer was really well done. Seeing the walker and the HMP, everything, the maps, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna give this a try. And right from my first couple of matches, I was hooked because it literally felt like I was in an episode of the Clone Wars.
Was this also your first experience with hardcore military sims?
No. So I actually got a PC. I would consider DayZ, considering it was an offshoot of Bohemia Interactive's Arma. I wouldn't consider it a milsim, but it's a hardcore game, kind of ish. But I originally got a PC because of that game back in 2014, because I didn't feel like buying another Xbox console. Once they were doing the switch to the Xbox One, I decided to get a PC. Played DayZ standalone, played some Arma 3, all at really low FPS because I bought a really terrible beginner PC build. So I haven't, honestly, since my high school days, I haven't put in a ton of time into Arma. But I want to get into Reforger at some point too. But yeah, so I mean, I've got experience with DayZ and Arma. I'm trying to think of what else. I've played Insurgency quite a bit, not anytime recently. But I mean, nowadays it's really just Squad and Galactic Contention. Oh, Hell Let Loose is another one I've dipped my toes in. Always love a good World War II shooter here and there. But I really, besides Galactic Contention, I haven't really been keeping up with a lot of other milsims. But I have experience in some other ones as well.
So this really sucked you in, basically.
Yeah, yeah. I really only ever play this and a couple other games here and there, like single player games, or my other go-to is Hunt Showdown, an extraction shooter. But that's really all I am playing for the last couple of years.
In all that time, did you ever get in touch with the developers? Maybe they told you something about the history of the project?
So it's funny, as long as I've been playing the game, I have an absolute love for the developers, but it's hard for me to track because there's been so many of them over the years, and I also don't know how much. I don't want to speak incorrectly of who develops what and everything. I've got a good idea for a lot of it, but I was given admin cam privileges, which is what lets me fly around and do a lot of cinematic stuff pretty early on. I think it was I didn't check. It was probably sometime around 2022, and I'm not even sure if the developer that reached out to me and coordinated that happening, I'm not even sure he works for the project anymore. But they're all super good guys, super passionate, very hardworking. They do all of this in their own free time, which is insane, for free. But I was told that there's about 28 people working on the mod currently, 6 to 8 of them being considered fully active. And I'm sure there's been a ton that have worked on the project that have since stopped progress or stopped contribution for whatever reason, just moving on, doing other stuff. But yeah, they've all obviously put in a ton of hard work and passion behind this project because it just constantly gets better and better.
How often would you say do they release something?
That is kind of hard to pinpoint because it's usually, unfortunately, based around the update schedule of Squad. So whenever Squad comes out with a large update, the mod has to be down for probably a couple months for the most part, if not longer, because they need to make it compatible with the newest version of Squad, and then they usually end up looping in a content release with that update, which makes it exciting. There have been, of course, content updates in between Squad updates, but generally it seems like it kind of ends up happening where the Squad update causes them to roll into the content update as well once it's ready. And it's hard for me to put a time frame off memory, but I would say usually there's at least different content updates, whether that be maps or new animations or new sounds, at least every 3 or 4 months, I would say confidently. But again, that's based off memory and wouldn't be totally accurate.
Since Squad also has some DLCs, I wonder, do you need any of those to enjoy it completely, or is just the base game enough?
As far as I know, just base game is required. Any of the DLCs, that being like emotes and stuff, are all, you can use the emotes in Galactic Contention as well. And there's map DLC or something for Squad 2, isn't there? Which you don't need, I don't believe, at all for Galactic Contention.
Okay, that's good. It's crazy how some modern games have millions of DLCs, and some games are really in your face when you don't have them.
Yeah, no, it's literally just base Squad, and then you just download the Galactic Contention mod for free from the Steam Workshop, and then you should be good to go. And you don't even need to do, honestly, you could load up base Squad, search for the servers in the server list for Galactic Contention, click on it, and then it'll just prompt you to download, I think, if you don't have it already installed, if I remember correctly.
Speaking about the server browser, how easy is it to set something up in there? Can you even have a LAN server?
I don't know the back end on how that works. You can have your own single player through the testing range. You can start up your own, not server, but start up your own testing layer, whatever you want to call it. The servers that are available are either through GC's official servers or other server hosts that have the mod installed. I don't know what that entails because I've never tried to run a server of my own. If you wanted to start your own private server, I believe you can. It's not like, I don't think you have to ask permission from the GC devs or anything like that. You just create a server running that mod. Again, I don't know how that works, to be quite honest, but there are regular servers in the server list, and then there's also a list of custom browser servers that are used for certain things like Galactic Contention GLOPS events, which are just kind of like specialized map layers where a bunch of the moderators kind of, if you're familiar with Arma 3 Zeus, it's kind of like that, where they build out a layer specifically for a certain objective that plays a lot differently than the regular multiplayer servers. They'll hold like special events. They just had one this last weekend that I missed because of work. It's a cool experience. It's different, but again, I'm not positive on how somebody would get server access running the mod, to be quite honest.
So I guess only during those events there's also a PvE component, or is there a dedicated PvE server?
There's no dedicated PvE server. However, there are certain things. They're still in the works, but there are aspects of them that are in the game and do work pretty well. There are bot systems, so like bot spawners. Right off the top of my head, I know there's one on certain layers of Umbara for the seeding layer, where it'll spawn droids and clones that'll just run around the map and shoot. But those GLOP events sometimes utilize bots, but the bots are, I think they're called squid bots. They're not super, they're getting better, but they're not quite there in being able to traverse the map very well and stuff like that. But there are already in the live servers a commander asset is you can call down for the clones. It's a squad of clone commandos that are AI. They'll drop down from a gunship that flies overhead and they'll start shooting at any foot soldiers and anything around them. And then for the droids, it is a group of crab droids that'll fall from the sky and then patrol and shoot stuff.
So they mixed something in there. I like stuff like that.
Yeah, they don't rely on it, but it is in there.
Yeah, it's different. It's always good when developers try something completely new or rare in that instance.
Yeah, I also should mention that there are some maps that also have creatures as well. Like there's crocodiles and some dinosaur-looking thing. I'm not sure what it's actually called. It might have an actual lore name, but there are AI creatures too that also roam around the map and will hit you, kill you with one hit if you don't hear them coming or shoot them.
Also, speaking about maps, roughly how many maps are there?
Ooh, give me 1 second and I can tell you a rough estimate. So this is including, I think, the different layers, because there are some maps where they'll be broken up into different objective points and all that. I didn't have it written down, but I do have in the trailer I made. Okay, so this trailer is from last year, but it said at the time over 20 maps, and that was before Umbara. So I would say that there's probably around 21 maps. Whether or not they're all cycled game right now is it might not be quite that number, but so I'd say it's around 20 maps, not including the different layers that change how the map plays out.
Not bad for a fan project on that scale. Over 20 maps. Really nice. But I guess, like most things, not all of them are good. So yeah, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your favorites in this game. Classes, maps, vehicles.
Yeah. So some of the maps that they did kind of recycle out that used to be in the game, one was Cato Nemoidia, which was the large hanging city in between this like rock spire kind of deal. It was a cool map for sure. I miss it because it was fun to play, but there have been a few other maps too. I forget what the one that was set in space. There's been a few rotated out either to be worked on or were just scrapped because they just quite weren't very ready to play, or they were early on in the mod. They were there to add diversity, but as more better maps got pushed out and updated maps got pushed out, it seems that they've retired those maps. Another one that I love to play every now and then, but haven't seen in a very long time, is Bespin. Obviously kind of controversial because a lot of the fun of Bespin would be flying around and shooting, and the infantry combat some people would get kind of sick of because you'd have to get picked up from a vehicle, dropped off on a separate point, and making that drop off without getting blown up by the defending team was always pretty hard. But anyways, my favorite map probably has to be Cessid. There's Cessid and there's Cessid Equator. Cessid Equator is a beautiful map that's gone through a lot of renditions as well, but is still being worked on. But regular Cessid has been in, I think, since the beginning, and it's this very like tropical map. It almost kind of feels like Scarif from Rogue One, to be honest. It's very islandy, tropical beaches, some tall spires, and there's a docked acclimator with a working freight elevator that goes up to it. A lot of just really cool, different, beautiful features on the map, and I think the combat in that map is a lot of fun. I think there's enough foliage and enough hard cover for vehicles to to traverse and work around, and yeah. So and it's not everybody's favorite map, but I'd say it's consistently been one that I'm always happy to play on. But I mean, there's a lot of other great ones too. Geonosis, Coruscant. I like some versions of Renvar. Renvar can be kind of a brutal, very open map in some cases, but with a good team and good armor units, Renvar is a pretty great map as well. In terms of, let's see, I'm trying to remember. You ask me roles too, roles and weapons, right?
Yeah, stuff like that. Doesn't have to be exact.
Yeah, I play so much Hat Kit, which is the heavy anti-tank. So I've got the PLX launcher. Lat Kit is kind of the little brother to that class. It's less effective rockets, but you get 2 of those and you get 2 anti-tank grenades. Basically anything that entails blowing up armor, I had a lot of fun with over the years. Usually whipping a lot of shots, trying to make hard shots here and there. So there's that. And then in terms of singular weapon, on that Felucia game we played, since I was squad leading, I was using the Westar M5, I think it's called. Basically this little submachine gun blaster. A lot of people think it's a little too good because it just melts some of the harder to kill units like the B2s, but it's definitely a good one for sure. And the dual pistols as well on ARC squad leaders is always fun as well.
One aspect in any FPS game is, of course, the balancing of the weapons. You mentioned that a little bit. How happy are you with the balance in the game and the general development of the game?
I mean, the game is always getting better, and I've never been unhappy with it from Galactic Contention, to be honest with you. I know that there's some people who changing armor and it kind of pisses them off. I've never really been like that. Even when I'm losing in this game, I'm having fun because of how cool it looks, to be honest with you. However, one class that I have a hatred for, that I'm never happy to be killed by, is the Grenadier class. Basically, for clones and droids, they have this one blaster that's just a grenade launcher. That's their main weapon. Their secondary is usually a pistol. And all they do is just anti-infantry, large area of effect damage on that blast. And it's always just so obnoxious to get killed by. You know, I would never want them to change something just because it's, you know, I want them to stay true to whatever they want to do with the game. However, I do feel like the Grenadier class could be changed in a way that makes it a lot less annoying to fight. I would love to see Grenadier kind of change into a class where they've got a primary that's not the grenade launcher, and the grenade launcher acts as their equipment more so than their primary weapon, with just either less ammo, slower fire rate, some other way to change how it works, because there's nothing more annoying than having a team that's coordinated or a squad that's coordinated take over a point, and then immediately all that progress is lost because some guy shot a big purple marble at you and you explode and you lose half your guys. Or taking over something like close quarters, just stomping down an enemy in close quarters combat, and then because you're in a single hallway, they can just launch that purple orb down and take you out. And I get it, there's got to be a variety of classes, but I just think that the way Grenadier is handled could be changed. But again, there's never really been an update that's come out where I've been unhappy. So if it doesn't change, that's fine with me. But if I had to change one role or one class, how it operates, Grenadier would be, I would love to see Grenadier change one day. But
another important aspect in any game is, of course, the community. What is the current status of the community? Is it very active? Are there... I saw there are 3 current servers and they were nearly full. I guess it's a good sign for the game.
Yeah, I mean, just like any kind of niche community or mod for a game, it kind of goes in waves. I've never seen a time where the Galactic Contention mod had less than 1 full server on a night. There's been a few times where, like, you know, a new game comes out that's popular amongst this kind of group of people and they'll all kind of abandon the mod to go play that game for a few weeks. But right now, like you said, it's been consistently at least 2 full servers, it seems like, every night for the North American play times. It is kind of hard for somebody who lives in like Australia to find that population, because a lot of the time it is North American and like UK, European time zones. But it's always a great time. There's a lot of times too where somebody popular YouTuber will make a video, or a popular streamer, like I think Summit1G was playing the game a few weeks ago, and you'll see a good surge in new players. And we also just had a sale on Squad as well, which brought in a lot of new people to try it out. But yeah, it's very healthy community right now. It's funny how many veterans you still have playing all these years later, and some of them, I mean, most of the community is very positive on helping, you know, the new people learn. But it is always hard with the people who play for quite a long time, getting frustrated with new players, and that's going to happen no matter what with a game that is as complex as Squad is. But most of the time, the community is very open to helping. New players just have to be vocal about the fact that they're learning, and usually most of the time the community will help them out. So it's a very healthy, positive community for the most part.
I guess that's always the problem in those hardcore simulations, that you are yeah, the game basically beats you to death as a newbie. It's really complicated.
Yeah, it's a harsh learning experience for a little bit for some people, unfortunately, and that's why I always try to help the veterans remember that they were new to the game once at some point too, and that to go easy on the new guys sometimes.
Some games have a good solution, I would say, in the sense that they have a PvE server where the noobs they have a safe zone, more or less. They can't
Yeah.
they can't really do anything bad. Most of the time they even turn off friendly fire. So it's a really good sandbox for noobs.
Yeah, it wasn't by GC. I can't remember who made it. They were posting about it in the Discord, which is also a big thing too. If anybody is new to the Galactic Contention mod and the community and everything, they should definitely join the Discord to ask questions freely and figure stuff out. But there was somebody that was doing kind of like that test server where people could just join and try stuff out and kind of figure the game out a little bit. Problem is that a server like that, like I'm not even sure if that server's still up, and it's only been, I think, a few months since I remember seeing it. Paying for a server like that to keep it open, especially when there's not like an influx of a lot of people. You know, people buy the game, download the mod, and then want to join a populated server to experience all that. So it's kind of hard to make a server predestined to just be used as a learning ground when a lot of those players are gonna maybe hop in for a half hour or so and then hop back out. I will say that's something I forgot to mention, is that there are tutors in the Discord too. So I don't know how many there are because I'm not super familiar. There's a lot of veteran players that were tutors and are no longer tutors, but anybody with the tag GCTT is someone who teaches new players, and sometimes they'll go in to either Discord and have a group of new players in there, or they'll just start a squad with only those new players and kind of teach them the ropes for the most part. So that's a very cool feature that the community just kind of offers. And I think that those guys technically go through like a application process with the devs to be quote unquote certified tutors, to just be friendly community members that teach other people to play the game. So there is that service, if you want to call it. But yeah, having a server dedicated to that would be kind of hard, because even just AI would be hard to kind of replicate the experience that you kind of have fighting other players in something like Squad.
First, that's an amazing feature that they offer this kind of service, and there's even a request, I would say, by the community.
Yeah, it's very nice of those guys to take that time and do that. Again, I don't know how many of them there are right now, but they are there to some capacity.
The other thing is, I don't know how the server structure is really working. If you can have a LAN server, if you can host a dedicated server on your local machine, that would definitely, I would say, help players at the beginning enjoying a PvE round, playing around the different roles. Like we mentioned during our game session, it would help pilots to be good pilots and not crash every 5 seconds.
There is actually, along with the tutor program, I haven't seen it in a while, but I know there was a time too, which this could happen again if there's enough demand for it, probably. But I'm not the person to offer that. There was a time where on that custom server I was talking about, where admins and whatever would host certain events. There have been times where they have offered the like a pilot class or a squad class. So basically, just filling up the custom server and a Discord call in the Discord with just people who wanted to learn how to do specific things. They had this was years ago now. I'm just remembering this. I remember because a few of the veteran players that still play the game were playing. I did a pilot class kind of thing where we all just went to Renvar, which is the big open snowy map. A lot of people think it's Hoth, but it's actually from, I think it's the original Battlefront 1, or it's not from that, but it was featured in that. But yeah, and we basically all spawned into our own squads. We hung out in Discord, and then we all got branched off with a veteran player who would squad lead and then teach us basically how to fly lats. So it was like literally a server of 20 people all just flying lats around. And then once we all kind of got the hang of it a little bit, and they taught us how to shoot the missiles, control collective, stuff like that on the ships, then we had a little bit of a fun dogfight where the veterans just absolutely demolished all of us. But they did offer that too. So it's not often, but there are times where the community will host events that teach you how to do the skills as well.
That's amazing. That's just amazing that they are not only developing this game, but also help players play it. It's really, really nice.
Yeah, a lot of those guys too that I'm talking about are admins. So I don't know. There's a difference in a lot of the developers too are very involved and play the game quite a bit as well. That like, for example, comes to mind. But a lot of there's also just a group of specific just admins that may not partake in developing the mod, but run the servers, change the maps, keep up on tickets when people are misbehaving, and then put on events like that. Off the top of my head, I know Arn and Rick and Kilo are three of the guys, at least, that I know of that are admins that are taking care of the glops and all that stuff, the different events. But again, it's funny how long I've played the mod, but I don't know to the extent. I don't think Rick and Kilo are developers technically, but they're admins, so they're very close. It's weird. I've as much as I've played the mod, I've unfortunately not informed myself too much on the exact layout of how guys work, if that makes sense.
Well, that's totally fine. You can also just enjoy a game.
Yeah.
You mentioned already so many things a new player shouldn't know when he first starts the game, but maybe something else?
Yeah, so my biggest advice for new players is to join a squad, make it known that it's one of your first games. Try to stay away from vehicles because you might get yelled at or might even get kicked from the server that you just waited 20 minutes to get in if there was a long line. Basically just join a squad, play either rifleman or medic, ask what you can do to help, ask questions like as much as you can without bombarding the team chat, I guess, if that makes sense. Like just kind of go with the flow, understand that a lot of the specific stuff that's happening around you is going to be both confusing and very cool at the same time, because the biggest problem, or I guess the biggest turnoff for a lot of new players, is they get in, they jump in a vehicle right away without a claim. At the very least, know the rules of how the vehicles work, that you need to be in a squad that is named for that vehicle. You need to be the specific role to play that vehicle. And then if there's already two squads that have both lats, you can't make the third squad called lat and steal one of the guys' lats at the beginning, because the first squad to have that named has the rights to that vehicle. And that's just how it works. So it's very, there's a lot of rules to it. And you just got to ask questions so that you don't accidentally sour your first experience, if that makes sense.
But to be honest, I love this feature. It's so frustrating in other games where vehicles are being stolen left and right. Chaos is basically already at the start. I don't like that. But here, there's at least a structure, an order. And yeah, speaking of order, maybe moving also a little bit away from the mod itself, what other Star Wars games did you play? Did you enjoy, for example, the Battlefront games, the original ones, the newer ones?
Yeah, so like I said, growing up, I played a ton of Battlefront 1 and 2, the 2000, I think it was 4 and 5 games on the PlayStation 2. Played a ton of Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga. Republic Commando. I didn't play when it originally released. I played, God, maybe like 6 or 7 years ago now, but that game, phenomenal. Jedi Fallen Order. Haven't played Survivor yet. I need to play Survivor. And I remember there's a PSP game where you played as Twi'lek with a drone, and something Rebel Alliance or something Rebel Spy. I don't remember, but that game was actually a ton of fun. Pretty obscure. I didn't ever, unfortunately, get into like Jedi Academy or Knights of the Old Republic or anything like that. It was pretty limited to, or actually even Force Unleashed. I never really got into. I own both those games on Steam, and I've been meaning to play them at some point. But yeah, basically just Battlefronts. I played so much.
Did you also play the close cousin, maybe, from Insurgency Sandstorm, Sagas?
Oh, Sagas. Okay, so Sagas I've been meaning to try. I'm excited to try it. Truthfully, I've been just trying to focus a lot on Galactic Contention right now because I don't know, nobody really knows when they're going to push out this Unreal Engine 5 update. So I definitely do want to play Sagas for sure, but I'm kind of planning on waiting until this Unreal Engine 5 update came out because it was definitely going to break the mod for a little while, I assume. And I was going to fill my time both just playing and content-wise with Sagas, but I might try Sagas before then just because I don't want to wait too long in case Unreal Engine takes a while to come out. But yeah, that is going to unfortunately take down Galactic Contention for quite a bit, I feel like.
Will this be an update for Squad itself?
Yes. So right now Squad runs on Unreal Engine 4, so they're going to be updating. They've been running playtests the last couple months, and for the most part, the game looks a lot better. They claim it runs better, but that's not what I've been hearing from other creators. So it's going to be something that they'll get through for sure, but I don't know. The longest downtime I remember for the mod was probably, I think, 5 months. And hopefully this won't be that much longer than that if it does cause as much issue as we think. And the whole problem is by the time they've worked up the compatibility update for the mod, who knows how many more updates Squad will push out to fix all of the stuff that's wrong with their base game when that update comes out. So every time the GC devs have almost fixed something, it might screw it all up again as OWI, I think, is the Squad developers as they push out updates for their game. But yes, I do want to check out Sagas at some point. I've been meaning to. I've just been kind of lazy.
It's also a nice mod, but similar to Galactic Contention, I really don't like that we are in an age where all the mods are also on platforms like the Steam Workshop or Mod.io. It's hard to archive anything here. If Steam is shutting down, more or less the mod is also gone. It will never happen basically, but we saw sadly in the past some strange moves also from Valve itself, that they said, hey, change Counter-Strike Go to Counter-Strike 2 and all the content on the Steam Workshop, we don't delete it, but you don't have really access to it anymore. Without any announcement, anything, the community content was gone. And yeah, I'm a big fan of archiving gaming history. If we can't play our mods, it's hard to swallow.
Yeah, I understand that. And I don't know, because obviously the thing is everybody always worries about Disney cracking down and sending like a cease and desist to some projects. The good news for GC is, as far as my understanding, is that since they've created all of the assets or whatever they haven't created on their own has been not taken from official stuff, I don't believe. And that's what kind of saves it from hopefully ever getting a cease and desist order from Disney. So they're not making money off of it. Anything donated to them goes to server running and stuff like that. And people always are like, man, I hope these guys make their own game. And while I wish that could be possible, I again don't know if that would even, if them somehow making it their own thing, not attached to Squad, how that would work if they cease and desist from Disney or Lucasfilm, or get a cease and desist from Squad if it wasn't like if it was ripped from Squad. So it kind of lives almost in this limbo of like, well, this probably won't always be here, but for right now it's safe and it's the best experience you can kind of get because there's no other real Star Wars projects that are good enough that offer this, no licensed game or anything that kind of creates this experience. So you're kind of just limited to this free mod that's attached to a milsim game, and you hope it doesn't go away one day, kind of.
Well, I guess since they're already so long in development, I guess the biggest danger is over. Most of the time, such projects are shut down at the beginning. They release it and half a year later or a few months, weeks later, they got shut down. But 4 years later, I guess the risk is not that big.
Yeah, fingers crossed, because it's a very niche community. But I mean, this mod has had like millions of, whether that be YouTube views through people like Operator Drewski or I know Slorix just did a video. There's a lot of milsim-centered creators that have made videos that would probably rack up to millions at this point of views. There's been TikToks and Instagram Reels of this mod that have blown up. So it's definitely been out there long enough and in enough eyes that hopefully if they wanted to take it down, they would have by now, meaning that it's marked safe, hopefully. But again, you never know. I feel like one day they could just ask the developers to pull the plug. Unfortunately, I hope that never happens, but I don't think it's impossible.
Definitely. Just new management, basically, and they kill all the mod projects. But that's also a very important fact, again, for having the mod files out there. If you just dump them on mods database, well, they can't do anything really, because we can distribute the files ourselves to many different platforms. They can say you have to stop development, but every file which is out there, it's out there. And being at the subject of the future, since you're also a long time player of the game, I guess you have a few ideas, few wishes, what they could do.
I mean, anything that I would say is probably something that they've already got planned. I mean, they did confirm that they're working on Galactic Civil War, the original trilogy era. It's not going to be anytime soon, that's for sure, but that'll be really cool. The plan is right now to make it a separate mod, so it'll run off of Galactic Contention, but it'll be a separate download. But you'll be able to hopefully host servers that jump between both eras if you wanted to. So we'll see Stormtroopers, or rather Empire versus Rebellion at some point, which will be awesome. I'd love to see more fluid animations and interiors for vehicles, which, I mean, as the years have gone on, we've gotten. So I can only imagine it's going to get even better with that. More audio and stuff, which is awesome. More like announcer voices and in-depth audio and stuff in the game. More maps. Umbara's coming. I mean, Umbara's already in the game, but more of Umbara. But just more maps, larger maps. That's all at some point. And yeah, I don't know. I'm here for the ride. If anything, like I said, my one suggestion to change, because it's a special hatred of mine, is the Grenadier class. But again, if that never changes, so be it. I will never complain, at least openly. I'm at the mod as it is, as it comes.
Did they ever mention that they want to include fighters, starships, maybe space combat?
So, I mean, we do have certain layers already in the game that have more fighters than usual. So there's specific layers that'll have like 3 or 4 lats and then 2 ARC 170s or 2 V-Wings or more even, depends. But I don't know if they're ever going to... I know Bespin was a map too that had just tons of aerial vehicles all at the same time. It's hard to get more than that amount of aerial vehicles in the air without causing a lot of server issues, I feel like. I might be wrong in that, because in the past, I mean, years ago, air vehicles used to lag around in the air very, very badly. Like, I'm talking like it looked like like 10 FPS sometimes, and it'd be hard for certain anti-aircraft guns or hat kits to hit those vehicles because of that. But that's since been almost totally fixed, and I think that's because of a squad update, because that wasn't the mod's fault, that was just base squad's fault. And so maybe they could do very large-scale aerial combat battles, and it would be very cool, honestly, like a ship-to-ship fight. I don't know if that's in the works right now. they've got a lot of stuff on their plate, and like I said, they do it all in their spare time out of passion, and whether it be for resumes, if they want to do game creation stuff or development in the future, I think a lot of those guys do, like, they make maps and stuff for the hopes that it can be their career one day, and they use this, I think, to their advantage to get experience in that field.
I think this is always totally fine and good for the gaming industry itself. I had a few game developers from older titles on this channel, and they more or less, confirmed to me that if you have a project in your resume which is quite substantial, something like this, they really love that. They really, really love that you're doing something besides your main education, that you're not only learning stupidly the things in a university, but doing something your own, creating something.
Yeah, you're creating something practical or something that you have passion for.
Being at the topic of passion and moving slowly away from Galactic Contention, you also have a YouTube channel.
Yes.
When did this start?
So I've had the channel since 2013, I think it says. My first video that's public, it wasn't my first video, but my oldest video that I still have public is from 2014. It's of DayZ in like probably 12 FPS when I was like a freshman or a sophomore in high school. So yeah, this also isn't technically my first channel, but I've deleted my first YouTube channel from when I was a kid, making all kinds of stupid videos. But yeah, so I'm at least 11 years into just doing this for fun. But yeah.
And what was the reason? Just fun, or did you want to learn something?
I don't know. It's weird. Maybe a lot of it was just kind of for the purpose of storing these memories, kind of like how you talked about how you like to archive, modding and gaming history. I really liked the idea of, in 20 years being able to watch what I did, in 2014, whether that be a terrible DayZ video or I played Rainbow Six Siege for a long time. I've met a lot of online friends that I now know in real life through Rainbow Six Siege. So it's cool to be able to go back and watch those videos from 5-6 years ago now and remember that. And then really, I had a couple of videos that when I was a senior in high school did very well. I'm not going to say they deserved it because they weren't that great of videos, but they, for whatever reason, hit the algorithm pretty well. And I made, for the first time, more than $10 off of something. So it was cool to be able to have this kind of like side project that was both fun to do, preserve some memories for me, and then also, earned a little bit of money. So it made it kind of like worth my time in my head, which I don't think you should do YouTube ever with the intent of doing it for money. But kind of, it's a good perk to keep my motivation, if that makes sense, without sounding like scummy, I guess. But yeah, once I uploaded Galactic Contention and it started getting a little bit of traction on the channel, and I had a lot of fun because I've been obsessed with Star Wars for so long. It's been a cool process. I don't think if I was presented with the opportunity to do it as a job, maybe I would, but it's never been something I've set out to do or that I've really seen myself enjoy doing, because I do have a few friends that work content their main source of income. And for some of them, it's worked very well for them. They've been able to keep up with it and make a lot of money and a good living off of it and been happy. And there's other people that I know that have been happy without it. So I don't know. It's never been something I've wanted to do as a career, but I do for fun, and I just do to store memories.
Which is totally fine. I mentioned this to another guest on the channel. It's either a good hobby, which brings you a lot of fun, a lot of memories, or it saves you a lot of memories in your case. But it can also be such a huge passion project, which you can mold in any direction you want, either in the money direction or advertising your other projects.
Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned in the beginning your setup wasn't that great. How did it evolve? What do you currently have? What software do you use for your videos? Yeah,
so originally I started off with some little pre-built $500 computer from iBuyPower. It was like a GT something card or something. I don't know. But over the years, I've kind of slowly upgraded. It's funny with how much time I've spent playing video games, how I didn't just kind of go right from the bat, get myself a decent setup that would last me for a long time. But over the years, I've kind of just upgraded parts as I've gone. So when I started playing Galactic Contention, keep in mind it was also when Squad was not as hard to run. I had like a 1070 and an Intel i7 6700, I think, if I remember right, and like 16 or 32 gigs of RAM. I upgraded to like a 2060 that I bought off of a friend, and then I also bought, now what I'm running is a 3060 Ti off of a friend and a Ryzen 5 5600X with 32 gigs of RAM, which is good enough to run the game pretty well most of the time. I've been considering upgrading and just dropping a decent amount of money so that I won't have to upgrade again for a while, but it's annoying because I'll need to buy a new motherboard for the new processor and card if I do end up getting it, but we'll see. I should update. But in terms of editing software, that is even more ancient. I still edit on Sony Vegas Pro 13, which was the first ever editing software I got when I was in high school. So that is what I've been editing on for the last 11 or so years.
That's interesting. I started with Sony Vegas.
I don't like change. I'm a very stubborn individual for the most part. If I'm comfortable with something, I don't really tend to replace it or upgrade it until I absolutely need to. So although I know in the long term it could be better for me to get into something like the Adobe products and stuff, I just am so comfortable and used to Vegas that I don't know. I don't see myself changing over anytime soon, but I really probably should consider it at some point if I want to kind of grow my skills with editing and stuff.
Well, I can share some experience in that regard. If you don't really need it and it runs, it's stable, stay. If you have seen anything in DaVinci Resolve, which I'm using, or in Adobe Premiere, which you really would like, try it. But be warned, it will be painful. The transition is really, really painful.
Yeah.
I would say that the first 3 months, I hated DaVinci Resolve because the editing is so different. You hit different keys, it behaves differently. I love, for example, in Sony Vegas, when you zoom at any point at the timeline, you zoom directly where your cursor is.
Yeah.
And in DaVinci Resolve, it does nothing, or it just goes left or right. You have to move the mouse exactly at the timeline, at the minute, at the second, where you want to zoom in. Then it works. But if you move anywhere else, it says basically, fuck you, I don't do that. Why should I? You need the old key and the mouse wheel for doing that. And you can't change it.
Yeah, it's just all those little things compiled would stress me out and piss me off. But one thing I could definitely benefit from is with Vegas, I don't know if this is a hardware issue or if it's because I render videos out at 1440p. But most of the time, for me to render out a 20-minute video, I usually end up just leaving my computer on overnight to render it out overnight because it takes so long to do so. That could be a Vegas issue. That could be hardware. I think it's probably just how old Vegas is, if I had to guess. But that was one thing that I definitely could benefit from. At least updating to a newer version of Vegas would probably help me out.
That's definitely the case, because if I remember correctly, it was Vegas 15 or 16 where they included the rendering over the CPU, over the GPU, not the CPU.
Yeah.
So it should be at least faster. A few other things I really enjoy in DaVinci Resolve, and which also convinced me to move there, is they have a lot of AI features now, in the sense of noise removal. You can remix audio. If you have, for example, an audio clip, a music, which is not long enough, or it's too long, you can edit how long it is in reality. And they will, via AI, include or remove the music, the additional music, or the the music which isn't there.
That is cool. What I use right now is a website just called vocalremover.org, and just drop in like clips from the Clone Wars that'll remove the background music and stuff like that to use in editing. But if it was in the editing software itself, it'd save a lot of time.
It saves a lot of time, yeah. It's so much nicer to have these AI features included already in the software. Another thing which is now still in beta is an AI which auto mixes everything for you. So the weapon sounds and the music is below your microphone. I can also very easily transfer the plugins and everything I created myself to a different computer. I use it on my laptop and my normal desktop PC. But yeah, like I said, it will be painful.
Yeah, maybe one day. Not anytime soon, I don't think. But one day, I think I'll finally give a new software a try, or at least update Vegas to a more current version.
At least on that front, Humble Bundle had in the past, at least sometimes, a very good sale for just, let's say, 10 or 20 bucks, the latest Vegas version.
It's funny because like I talk about Vegas and I've never really looked to see how expensive it would be, and it's not even probably that bad.
I think they now are moving more and more to the subscription model.
Okay.
Which most companies do. DaVinci Resolve is the only video editor I know which is basically for free, 90%. So 90% of the features you can use for free. For the last 10%, you need the studio version, which is I think 350 bucks.
Yeah.
Once. So it's a lifetime payment, and you have every update, everything included forever.
Wow. Yeah, that is.
Which is also fair.
Yeah, that's not bad.
But moving away from the setup and the software, more to the personal impact of the YouTube channel and content creation. Can you, for example, still enjoy games without recording, or do you only play for recording purposes?
So, I mean, I always make sure that I also forgot to mention, I record using Shadowplay, which is nice because I don't have to dedicate, hitting the record button and trying to get content out of it. I can just backpedal and save the last 5 minutes of footage, which is usually what I rely on, which sometimes screws me over because I sometimes forget to hit that button. Most of the time, I'm just hanging out playing squad. Unless I have a video idea in mind, I'm not trying to get content a certain way. Like recently, I've been trying to play more Armor, so I guess in that regard, I have been playing for content, but I'm still just on the game for fun. But sometimes if I'm not having a decent game, and I'm not feeling it, I'm tired from work or something, I'll just hop off. I don't force myself to keep playing because I'm due for a video or whatever. What was the second part of that question? I forgot.
In general, how has it impacted your life?
Oh, right. Honestly, I've spent a lot of my free time is playing games or just being on my computer anyhow, so it's not like editing videos or anything has accosted me less free time or whatever, less time doing other things, because I'm usually sitting here anyhow. But I mean, depending on my work schedule, like if I've picked up more shifts or I'm covering shifts, then I sometimes miss out on upload schedule and stuff like that, which I try to do a video at least every week or so. But if I don't hit that mark, I don't hit that mark. I don't really stress too much about it. But yeah, so I mean, it's pretty relaxed. Like I said, I don't do this for work. I don't feel as though I have to hit a margin or upload every certain days. I try because it's fun to do, but if I don't do it, I don't do it.
So you have a good work-life YouTube balance.
Yeah, I would say so. Doesn't cause me any unneeded stress.
That's good to hear. But I guess there were still some challenges in the past and also some rewards doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the challenges you could say, would be, I don't know, I guess uploading stuff that I, am wondering, like as I'm editing, I'm wondering if this is even worth uploading or stuff like that. But I mean, then the rewards are people One of my favorite things, and I always get kind of like awkward about it in game when people say it to me, but it is one of my favorite things, is people in game recognizing the game because they saw one of my videos, which is super cool. Or I've even had a couple people tell me that they bought PCs because of my videos to play the mod, which is also really cool. And my first question to them is always, do you regret it? And so far they've all said no, they don't regret it, which is good. But yeah, I mean, the challenge is just being happy with the content I'm uploading, or sometimes I'm happy with something that I've uploaded and it doesn't hit the algorithm the way that other stuff has for some reason, but that's just the way it goes for the most part. It's just a little mental battle here and there, but again, like I said, it doesn't, try not to stress about it or worry about it.
Sounds very healthy, your approach of your general life and your YouTube career.
Yeah. I try to think about it as positively as I can.
Which brings me basically to the last question. What are your long-term goals with your channel?
Long-term goal, I mean, just upload more, be happier with the content I'm producing. Not that I'm unhappy with what I've got so far, but just, you know, being happy with every video I put out as much as I can be, and uploading stuff that I still want to. Like every now and then I'll post a Hunt Showdown video that I know won't get as many views as the Star Wars stuff, but I still want to upload it, one, to clear out some hard drive space because I have a lot of clips and stuff of that game sometimes, but also just to, again, in my mind, it's uploading a video for myself to enjoy later, and then follow it up with a video that I still enjoy making, don't get me wrong, but is also still gonna be a viewing experience that people that have subscribed to me will enjoy to watch. Because I do always get sometimes nice comments of, like, on a video that's not Star Wars, saying somebody, you know, wish that this would get as much attention as the Star Wars stuff, and if it doesn't, you know, it's an upload for me rather than for the subscribers, but I'll still continue to put out content that the subscribers have been there for, because I still enjoy making it too. So yeah, I mean, more Star Wars stuff in the future. You know, if we get more subscribers, it's cool, but it is what it is. We'll see where it goes.
I guess that's also a very important thing, that you also make room for content you just want to do. Not something your viewers would like to see. It's also important, but there also have to be some projects, some things you just do for passion, just for fun.
Yeah. It's always hard to kind of lock yourself into a singular niche audience, or an audience that expects one type of content, which, I mean, it's hard. If you don't build the channel around variety content from the beginning and either have a spin to it, whether it be your friend group, your personality, the way you edit, just something like that. If you don't start with variety, it's kind of hard to work your way into variety content effectively. But again, that's on the creator to kind of mold what kind of audience they attract, what kind of algorithm they hit, kind of to know what's expected of their content in the future. But like you said, it's important to still make what you want, either alongside the normal content, or if you wanted to, if you get sick of a specific type of content, to just do what you want to do for fun. Unless you, again, I don't think people should go out and make YouTube channels for the intent of becoming a YouTuber off the bat. They should start it off as a hobby and then transition. But like you said, no matter what, work your passion in there, whether it be a video here and there or kind of remolding your whole content process.
Definitely true. I guess younger people have more or less this ambition of being the next YouTube princess. Yeah. But in reality, it's way too hard. I think it's a good tool for marketing, for even gaming development. But as a sole platform to get rich, I guess that's hard.
Yeah, you really have to be lucky. Yeah, luck comes a lot with it. I mean, skill for sure as well, but because of just the age we live in now, where streaming is so popular, making content in general is so popular, it's very hard to kind of create something that differentiates from others or pulls people in consistently. It's very hard to do. Not that it wasn't hard to do 10 years ago, because it was still hard to do then because the amount of people watching this stuff also wasn't as high. So there's more people doing it, yes, but there's also a larger audience to kind of spread it out as well. So it's a weird balance between knowing the audience and what people are looking for, while also trying to hit that algorithm the same way.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, I would say this is the part of the video where I open the mic to you. Is there anything you would like to add? Anything we missed?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, the Galactic Contention mod has been a super cool experience, and I can't thank the people that have worked on it enough over the years. It's been a lot of fun to play, and again, the fact that it's all a free experience, other than, you know, buying the base game, it's still insane to me. But yeah, I mean, other than thank you for doing this, and thanks to the Galactic Contention team for what they do, and shouting out to other Galactic Contention YouTubers like Cooligan and Mad Max and Warlock, and Galactic Pilot used to make some really awesome stuff. I haven't seen him do anything in quite a while. But yeah, I don't know, just the whole community as a general is all some really great people, some cool stuff. So I think that's all I got.
That's totally fine, and you are always welcome back to this channel. It was nice talking to you.
Yeah, you too.
And yeah, that's it for this video. Leave us a comment, tell us what you think about the game, and of course, play the game. Until next time.